If you enjoy what we're doing and want to become one of our tribe, then go ahead and click subscribe. And if you choose to be PC with D, remember, it's always free. And if you give that little bell icon a ring, you'll be notified of our next video, and you won't miss a thing. And if you choose to give this video a like, won't you please share it as well, so we can give Christianity a bigger mic. Well, good morning, guys. Certainly good to see all of you. As Dad said, I'm glad to have Sister Bertha Ann back with us, and we're glad to have Brother Dave back as well. I'm glad to see each and every one of you on a rather chilly spring day. You know, as I always say before I give any lesson, the things I've prepared here this morning, I love each and every one of you, and the things I prepare are given right here, first and foremost. Our lesson, as you can see on the board this morning, is simply titled something we're going to think about here. That I guess it was March Madness hitting me that we just got through and all these different sporting events. Our lesson is titled, Are We In It to Win It? And I got to thinking about these things in terms of our Christian life. How many times in your life, whether it be sporting events or just anything in life, have you seen something that should not have happened? Maybe a small team beat a big team, a less talented team beat a strong team. And how many times in your life have you wondered, how did that happen? And then it breaks down, doesn't it? Because that team that was highly ranked, or that team that had all the talent in the world, they didn't show up on that day, did they? Their heart wasn't in the game. And they lost. And it got me thinking about our Christian life. If our heart is not in this, folks, we're not going to win. If we as Christians aren't willing to give our heart, our soul, our every bit of our being to God, we're going to lose. In any game in this life, there's winners and there's losers. And the one that wins is the one that's willing to give all. The one that's willing to put in the harder effort. The one that's willing to win. Is that us in our Christian life? Paul is going to give us a perfect depiction of what this Christian journey we're going to take is like. And he puts it in terms of a race, which pretty well fits our world today, everything, the hustle and bustle. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 24. There he says, Know ye not that they which run a race run all, but only one receives the prize. Therefore run that you may obtain. Pretty well describes our Christian life, doesn't it? Paul's simply saying, in this thing we call life, you're in a competition, you're in a challenge, whether you know it or not. It's the challenge for your soul. The question is to us as a Christian is, are we going to win and cross the finish line, or are we going to lose? Every single person that lines up at that starting line is going to have to run that race. But only one person, only the one that's willing to give all, only the one that's willing to work harder than everybody else is going to cross the finish line. They're going to win. And therefore Paul tells us in our Christian life, run! Run this race that you call life like there's no tomorrow. Run with everything that you have. Give your absolute, ultimate effort if you plan to obtain the prize of a heavenly crown. Because not everybody's going to cross the finish line, are they? I can tell you from running track and cross country myself in high school and in junior high, when you look down on both sides of that starting line and that man standing out in the distance with the gun ready to fire, you look down on both sides, there's a lot of people lined up, especially in maybe an invitational in cross country. You might have over 200 people in a race. And when you're standing with your hands on your knees and looking down on both sides of that line, there's a lot of faces looking back at you. And they're just as nervous as you are. And they know that any moment that gun's going to fire and the race is going to begin. During the course of that race, many things are going to happen. Some are going to pull up and not give an effort and decide to quit and never finish the race. Others are going to start out of the gate so fast, faster than they could ever have imagined, but they're going to burn out and they're going to get past and they're not going to give their best effort. And then there's the guy that knows he has to pace himself, knows that there's going to be many trials that come during the course of that race, from side stitches to the fatigue. They know they're going to have to go through many things before they cross that finish line. Which one are we? Are we willing in this life to run like our soul, our life depended on it? Are we going to be the one in this great big world of all these folks who have never named God that's going to run to obtain? That's the basis for our lesson. And having said that, we go in to our first point. Number one, I have written here, in any race or in any event, we have an audience. And Paul tells us about this, once again, in the terms of a race. We go to Hebrews, the 12th chapter, and verse 1. He says there, "Wherefore, seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside the weight and the sin that so easily besets us, and let us with patience run the race that is set before us." Well, there's a lot said there in that one little verse, isn't there? So let's break it down. The first part simply telling us there, we have an audience, don't we? In any event, a race, any sporting event, anything in this world that has got an athletic tone to it, there's an audience, isn't there? We're compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. When you're running the race called life, you're going out there as a Christian doing your works for the Lord, you've got an audience. And you know who's sitting right behind home plate? At the 50-yard line, front row center, is God Almighty. What are the people seeing in this world when they're seeing you out and about running this race we call life for God? And most importantly, what's God seeing? You know that guy that's got the best seat in the house at a baseball game? He's right there front row behind home plate. He knows, doesn't he, when a pitcher doesn't have his good stuff that day. He knows when the guy's dogging it, when he doesn't really care, when his heart's not in the game. Same thing at a football game. Front row at the 50-yard line, you know when that quarterback doesn't care. You know when he's afraid of getting hit. You know when his heart's not in the game, he's going to lose. And that's what God sees. He sees the days, the times in our life when we're only putting a half effort. When our heart's not in the game. When we're not willing to win. What if that was our last day? What if the day we decided to phone it in and say, oh well, was the day the trumpet sounded and Christ came back? Are we ready on that day? Are we in this thing to win it? To get our soul across the finish line, to get to a heavenly home? Or not, guys. Because that's what it boils down to, isn't it? We're either going to win or we're going to lose. And during the course of this, we've got an audience who's seeing the effort we're putting forth. We are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. And let me tell you, when someone knows in this life that you're a Christian, that you go to church, you're under a microscope, aren't you? The minute someone finds out in your life that you believe in God or you profess to be a godly person, a Christian, that's the moment they start really analyzing everything you do. From the words that come out of your mouth, the actions you take, whether you help someone or don't help someone, whether you even mention the name of God or Christ to them. How many times in life do you think someone has waited to see if you were going to invite them to church? They may not have wanted to go, but knowing you're a Christian, they waited to see if you would take that step, and you never did. What if they saw someone that was in your immediate circle that they know needed help and they waited to see whether you were going to do anything? What if you don't? It's not giving a very good name to the name of Christ, isn't our namesake, a Christian? And God is watching every proceeding we take as well. We're always compassed about, guys, with so great a cloud of witnesses. There's always an audience in this race we call life. But he goes on there, doesn't he? And he says that we need to set aside the weight and the sins that so easily beset us. In every single race, every single event, they're going to take every advantage, aren't they? Athletic event, to get an edge. You're going to wear the shoes that are lighter than other shoes, that give you better traction, give you more speed. You're going to wear clothes that are aerodynamic, that can cut the wind. You're going to take every advantage you can, aren't you? Cast away every weight that's going to beset you, that's going to slow you down. Every distraction that's going to stop you from being your best. Could you imagine in the middle of a race or a sporting event of some kind, you took time to jaw with the fans after every play? How good of a game would you have? Not very good, would you? You're distracted by what the guy in the front row on the left's doing instead of watching where the ball is or what's going on. You're not giving a very good effort. You're not going to win. That's what Paul's saying when he refers to our life as a Christian with sin. That's what sin can do, can't it? The devil is out there. He's the guy in the front row with the banner, the sign, hoping to distract you. Hoping that he can say something to throw you off your game. Hoping he can say something to make you want to quit the game. Are we? In our Christian life, there's so many things that can get in our way, and sin is the biggest one. The sin that can so easily beset you. It's like having a roadblock right in the middle of the way. It can trip you up, and it can leave you laying face first for the rest of your life. Are we allowing it to? Paul warns us again about this in Colossians, the 3rd chapter, verse 2. There he says, set your affections on things above and not on things of the earth. Sin, temptation, all these things can get in the way. They're distractions. You see, the devil doesn't have to get you to denounce God in this life to have you end up being a failure. He doesn't have to get you to throw off God completely out of your life to get you not to cross the finish line to get to heaven. He just simply needs you to be distracted. Worrying about what Joe or Sue's house looks like compared to yours. Worrying about what car you have and how it could be better. We talked a little bit about this in our Bible study about covetousness. He doesn't need you simply to denounce God. He just needs you to stay distracted. That's why it's so important for us in this race we call our Christian life to cast off the weights and the sins that can so easily beset us, the things that distract you. What did Christ say in Matthew? Talked about if our eye offends us to pluck it out, and if your hand offends you to cut it off. The distractions, right? The things in your life that's going to get between you and God, remove them. Just as Paul's saying. Cast them aside. Because if you don't, guys, if we don't in this life, we're not going to cross the finish line first. We're going to lope along, give a half-hearted effort, stay distracted, and in the end, we're going to end up the loser. Cast away the weights and the sin that so easily besets you. Here's the next part. And let us with patience, run the race that is set before us. Boy, patience is a big one, isn't it? This is the one that gets many, many Christians. This is one a lot of us kind of justify, dismiss in our Christian walk with God. But it's one that's going to take us or cause us to fall, to stumble, or lose our soul as much as anything else. Let us with patience run this race that's set before us. How many folks in this life sadly even as Christians, will go through and they'll allow things in this life to tempt them, to press their buttons, to get on their nerves or get in their way, and they're angry. They get angry at what someone says, how someone had some better fortunes happen to them than you, and you lose your patience. You don't understand why you serving God week in, week out, coming through those doors, sitting in these pews, have a tough life. Why the bills always keep coming when you barely have enough to pay them. Why your health fails. Why things don't roll your way. And then what falls in? A bitter heart begins to form, doesn't it? Because then you look out there and you see someone who never darkens the door of a church, who never worships God, who never even professes to believe in God, but everything rolls their way. They get the money rolling in, they get the job promotions, their family's healthy, everything seems to go their way. And what do? We wonder why. That patience starts getting tested. And then the patience not only gets tested, the anger turns into bitterness. And then we can fall away from God. It can take us just as easy as anything else, can it? Patience is a big part of our Christian life. And James warns us and tells us about this so eloquently in James 1, verses 3 and 4. There he says, "Know you not, or knowing this first, that the trial of your faith works patience." But here's the sweet spot. "But let patience have her work in you, that you may be entire and wanting nothing." What's James saying here? James is simply telling us that in our Christian life, there's going to be moments where you're tried. This isn't going to be a cakewalk. This isn't going to be an easy race to the finish line. There's going to be times where you are absolutely pushed to the limit in your faith with God. Moments where this life beats you to your knees and kicks you in the teeth. Moments where our patience is tested. Moments where we are tried to our absolute limit. But what's he go on to say? "But let those times come. Let your faith be tested. Let these times strengthen you. Let that patience begin to develop in your life." Because the more times we go through things in this life, the more patience develops, right? The more tough times you face, the next time there's a tough time, it's not so tough, is it? Why? Because you know that God has brought you through the fire once before, and He'll do it again. We are going to be tested. We're going to be tried in this life, but let that patience develop. Let it have its perfect work in you so that over a lifetime of this, you develop into a Christian that is perfect in the eyes of God. A Christian that has developed finally that contentment, that patience in your life, that you'll be entire and wanting nothing. That's a moment in my life I hope I learn to obtain one day. Is it not? The moment in your life when you finally reach the point of your life where you're entire, you're complete, you want for nothing. God is everything. And you've developed a patience to wait upon Him knowing that He'll grant you everything. That's peace, isn't it? That's the peace that passes all understanding, as God's Word tells us about. And that's what James and that's what Paul is talking about in this race we call our Christian life. Develop that patience. Run this race with patience. Develop it in your life, and you'll get to the point where you're complete. You'll get to the point where running this race is no big deal. You've paced yourself. You're willing to go just along, knowing that you're going to reach the finish line because God is at your back. That's contentment. That's patience. That's leading to a life that's entire and wanting nothing. We don't just stop with having an audience. We don't just stop with patience in our life and going through these things. No. Waiting for us at the line, the finish line, is Jesus Christ. The one who's run the race already, who's set the pace, who's given us the guide on how to get through the course. The question is our eyes continuously on that prize? Is our eyes on the finish line, wanting to get through this race, wanting to follow the pace that Christ set, wanting to lead the example and follow the example that He set before us? Because once again, Paul tells us in Hebrews, many folks believe Paul wrote Hebrews, but the Hebrew writer tells us in Hebrews 12, verse 2, there we need to look to Jesus Christ, the author and finisher of our faith, who for joy before Him endured the cross. You talk about someone who literally has already run the race, set the pace, and has literally crossed the finish line. That's Jesus Christ. And He's the one standing at the finish line, waving you in. The question to us is, are we going to make it? In our Christian life, how sad would it be to see the finish line up ahead and fall flat 100 feet shy of it? And how many folks, sadly, have faced that in this life? How many folks have come through doors just like these, sat in pews just like these, year in, year out, never thinking there would be a time where God was no longer important. Never thinking there would be a time where they would no longer come back. But they do. They fall away. Things in this life become more important. Sunday just becomes another day to do what you want to do and go where you want to go. You stay in that state for the rest of your life, and when your life ends, it's a sad day. Because you've ran the race. You knew who set the pace. You've read the instructions on how to get there, and you can see Christ at the finish line. But for whatever reason, you got lost along the way, and you fell short of the finish line. It can happen to each and every one of us, because it's happened to so many of folks just like us before us. You know, I bet Judas never thought there'd be a time where he would betray his own Savior. Laying beside of Christ each night, seeing the miracles He performed, being right beside the Son of God day in and day out. I'm sure he never thought there would be a day where he would betray his own salvation, where he would betray his own Savior for 30 pieces of silver. A time where he would be so guilty that he would go out and take his own life. Things can happen in this life. When we run this race we call life, our Christian life, many things can get in our way. And one of the saddest things in this life is to stop looking at the prize. To take your eyes off the ball, as they say, to take your eyes off the prize and just fall flat, fall short, fall away. And folks, finally, in this race we call life, not only is Christ waiting at the finish line for us, but simply put, is our heart in this race to get there? Are we in this thing to win it? Because not everybody is. Jesus Christ tells us in Luke, the 9th chapter, verse 62. There He says that no man, having put his hand to the plow and looking back, is fit for the kingdom of God. You know, a lot of times when you run a race or, again, in any kind of athletic event, what's the thing the coach always tells you to do? Never look back. Because when you run a race and you look back, someone gains on you. That's the devil. Every single time in our life where we have professed we believe in God, we've been baptized, we started that walk with Him, and we take the time to look back in this life, to start getting distracted with worldly things, with sin, the things that so easily beset us, someone's gaining. The devil's gaining. And Jesus Christ warns us not to get complacent. Not to get to the point in our life where we quit running, or where we look behind us at the life we used to lead. Look back and want to turn back to the things that we used to do before we became one of His. Because no one that looks back, no one that puts their hand to the plow and looks back is going to get into heaven. These are the things that a lot of folks, a lot of religions and televangelists don't want you to hear, don't tell you. But this is the truth. These are the words from our own Savior's lips. Not everybody is going to cross the finish line. Not everybody that put their hand to the plow at one time in their life is going to get to the end. Not everybody is going to be fit to finish this race. Only those who are in it to win it. Only those whose heart is truly in this thing. Only those who put God first and never look back. Are we one of those today? In this race we call life, are we in it to win it? Are we in it to conquer the race itself? To please the crowd that is always compassed about us and watching, and our Heavenly Father who's in the best seat in the house? Are we going about getting rid of the weight and the sin and the things that can get in our way to beset us, to slow us down, or out and out stop us during this race? Are we running with patience, following the pace that was set by Jesus Christ, and keeping our eyes on the prize of that finish line where He's waiting to wave us in? And do we have the desire to reach it? To not look back, but to simply cross the line. Are we in it to win it? Folks, the lesson's yours. If there's anyone here this morning, I believe we're all baptized. But if anyone here this morning feels like you've fallen short or you're not running the race like you want to, there are faithful men here to pray that you be strengthened, that you come back and be closer to your God once again. If you have that need, won't you come as we sing the song of invitation?